What's up guys, welcome to the Pencil Tutors channel. I'm Anis and today I'll be giving you some tips you can use for certain subjects. Let's get into it. Starting off, we have some language subjects like Bahasa Melayu and English. So some tips that I would give for you for this type of subjects is, firstly, if you have to write, I would say go with your strongest choice. Like if you have to write an essay, go with your strongest choice so that you feel confident that you can get the highest marks that you can possibly get. And the second tip that I will give you is use acronyms. Using acronyms can build structure in your essay so that you don't fall off or go sideways when you're writing. So some of the examples is like peel, we have I hate Coke, another one is ick, and the last one is music. So the last tip for this subjects is, if you have literature, because in Bahasa Melayu and English we do have literature, so I would suggest that you remember 3 things that you can manipulate, like characteristics, events, settings, theme, and message. So remember 3 things, and then remember the events that happen in those 3 things, and then you can manipulate however you like in the type of questions that they give you. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Up here we have some science subjects like biology, chemistry, and physics. So some tips that I would give to you while you're studying for these subjects is, firstly, you have to memorize the keywords and formulas that is contained in the subject. So what you want to do is you highlight the keywords and the formulas so that you don't forget when you're trying to study. So the second tip that I suggest to you is using the process method. So like step 1, this happens. Step 2, this happens. Step 3, this happens. So when you remember the steps and the processes, it makes more of a logical thinking when you're writing your answers or when you're studying. And the last one is remembering the flow of the experiment and situation, like flow. And for this, I would suggest you remember keywords in that specific sentence so that you can connect the dots as you go along. And if you have subjects like history or moral and Islamic studies, some tips I would give to you is that you have to memorize the keywords. So you highlight the keywords in that topic in the subject so that when you're studying and then when you're doing some questions later on, the word that you highlighted will pop out in your brain so you can write down your answers correctly. And another tip is that if you have a question that you need to pick when you're like studying or you're doing practice questions, I suggest answering the questions that you feel confident with so that you can get the highest marks. Because if you don't pick the questions that you feel confident with, your score is it's not gonna be the highest score, which is sad. So don't do that. Pick the one that you're confident with, and hopefully your scores will be the highest that you can get. And if you have subjects like maths and maths, what I suggest to you is that you memorize the formulas so that you can scribble it down on the question paper and that you can just refer to that formula instead of just flipping through the front of the page to find the formula. And for mathematical problems or mathematical subjects, you have to do a lot of practice, because as they said, practice makes perfect. And your body will like know how to answer the question really, because in your brain it's like, oh, I've seen the question before and I can do this. So because mathematical problems is the same question but they write it differently. So if you do this, if these tips helps you, I think that you can score high in your exam. Or even if you're doing practice questions at home or you're studying, I think that you can get better as you go along. There you have it. So these are some tips that I hope is helpful to you when you're studying. And this doesn't cover a lot, but it does cover some that you learn, or maybe you don't learn and you're here just to have fun. But if you think these are helpful, leave a comment below, and maybe we'll do some more tips for certain subjects for different subjects. And thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified when we post new videos. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!